I was a lawyer with a 99% win rate, but I transmigrated into a rookie who couldn't even afford the rent until I came across a case. The bank insisted that the old man in the ICU show up in person to prove that his son was his son. He didn't get the money out. His son was stuffed with a bag of life, saving money by robbers. But the bank turned around and sued him as an accomplice to robbery, sentencing him to 20 years. The family came to me crying. I said I'd take the case. If I won, no charge. If I lost, I'd pay them back. At the first court session, I stood up and said one thing. Everyone thought I was crazy. I am Su Bai, a lawyer with a 99% win rate, and I've transmigrated to a parallel world. Civil law, criminal law, constitutional law, administrative law, I'm proficient in all. But it's been half a month since I transmigrated, and I, a top-tier gold medal lawyer, have been reduced to a divorce consultation specialist. Today, another rich woman came, dragging me into a 2.5-hour talk about her husband's affair. Lawyer, can I make him leave with nothing? I look at my notes. According to the law, no, but we can help you secure a 70% split of the marital assets. Oh, then forget it. I won't get divorced for now. Then why did you tell me all this? So here I am, a lawyer, turned into a free chat companion. Male models charge a few hundred an hour, so I'm losing out. I charge a consultation fee of $350. I check my bank balance, $1,860. I don't even have next month's rent covered. What the original owner left me was a marriage counseling law firm with terrible business. He himself was a rookie lawyer who had been practicing for 5 years, but had barely won any cases. With that reputation, who would hire you? Just as I was wondering whether to switch careers and find a job, suddenly, a ding sounded in my head. Your Rascal system is now online. Newbie gift pack. Complete 10 legal consultations or take on 1 case. Reward $50,000 in cash. $50,000. That money couldn't come at a better time. I was leisurely brewing some cheap old Banjong, T9.9 yuan for 3 Gene, when the law firm door was pushed open. An elderly couple in their 70s, supporting each other, walked in. It didn't look like a divorce consultation. I quickly stood up and greeted them. Hello, this is Baijun Law Firm. I'm the head, Su Bai. May I ask if you're here for a consultation or to file a lawsuit? We want to file a lawsuit. Good, my first case since transmigrating. Civil or criminal? The old man's side, criminal case, bank robbery, major robbery charge. I want to hire a lawyer to reduce my son's sentence. Bank robbery? Old man, with your physique, you can't even beat a security guard in the village. Not me, it's my son, the old man quickly explained. That's more like it. I had them sit down and tell me the whole story. After 2 hours of listening, I got the gist of the case. The old couple were Wang Zizhong and Zhang Cuifeng, with an only son named Wang Li. Wang Zizhong was critically ill in the ICU, waiting for money to save his life. Wang Li went to the bank to withdraw the old couple's savings, but the bank insisted that the account holder show up in person to prove that Wang Li was indeed his son. Even with the ID card, household registration booklet, and critical illness notice, it wasn't enough. They insisted the old man from the ICU come in person. While Wang Li was arguing with the bank staff, a group of robbers actually showed up. After robbing the bank, they heard Wang Li needed money to save his father, so they split some with him. Wang Li didn't think twice. He took the money and rushed to the hospital. Later, when the robbers were caught, Wang Li was identified as an accomplice. He was sentenced to the maximum term for major robbery, 20 years in prison. He appealed to the second trial but lost, and the verdict was upheld. Now it's in the final appeal. A do-or-die deal. I asked, how did you lose the second trial even with new evidence? The lawyer's fault. The moment the second trial lawyer was mentioned, Wang Zizhong was so furious his dentures flew out. CTM, that shady lawyer raked in $188,000 from me with just 3 sentences. I quickly stepped back to dodge the physical attack. Wang Zizhong huffed as he shoved his dentures back in, claiming to be a top criminal defense lawyer, but in court all he could say was, okay, and I accept the presiding judge's ruling over 60,000 per sentence. What a joke. Zhang Cuifeng wiped her tears and added, Lawyer Su, we heard the final trial might be live-streamed online. We approached many firms, big ones wouldn't trust us, and small ones didn't dare take the case. A live-streamed court trial was prime advertising space. I immediately decided, I'll take this case. If your son doesn't get a reduced sentence, or if you're not satisfied with the reduction, I won't charge legal fees. The old couple was moved to tears. You're a pretty decent lawyer. I pulled out a standard retainer template, and after three-party confirmation, we signed. The moment I put pen to paper, the system notification chimed. Task complete. 50,000 cash reward transferred to your account via legal means. I was just wondering how to make this money legal when a text message came in. A client who had previously sought my marriage counseling said she talked to her husband following my advice. The abusive husband finally agreed to divorce and transferred 50,000 as thanks. System, you sure know how to predict. After receiving the money, I picked up the materials to go to the court to retrieve the case files. Just then, a female college student with a bun hairstyle walked in, with a look of innocent foolishness in her eyes. She bowed to me at a 70-degree angle and said, "Hello, Lawyer Su. I'm here to report for duty." I remembered. This is the intern lawyer that the original host hired, Li Shuezhen, a top student from Nanda University of Law. She works for free. Well, free labor is not to be wasted. Just in time, pack up and come with me to the court to retrieve the case files. On the way, Li Shuezhen looked nervous and said, "Lawyer Su, our first case is a criminal case? Can we win?" I smiled and didn't say much. After retrieving the files at the court, I finished reading the first instance verdict and asked Li Shuezhen to look at the second instance. She was stunned as soon as she opened the first page. The presiding judge of the second instance trial was a senior female alumnus who had graduated many years ago. At the time, that senior also thought the first instance was too harsh and was waiting for the defendant's lawyer to present a good defense to overturn the verdict. But we ran into that fast talker. He only said 3 things the whole time. Li Shuezhen looked up at me, a hint of despair in her eyes. "Lawyer Su, the bank's legal team is going all out." My senior said, "Without conclusive evidence, we can't win at all." "Who says we can't win?" "Huh? Who says Wang Li committed a crime? Didn't he?" I closed the case file and went to the detention center to see Wang Li first. Passing by a convenience store, I pocketed 2 packs of cigarettes. Li Shuezhen was confused. "Lawyer Su, don't you not smoke?" "I don't smoke, but I can't be without them." I packed the cigarettes. It's about social niceties. You'll see in a bit. When I got to the detention center gate, I didn't rush in. I saw an officer outside patting his pockets for a smoke. I decisively walked up and offered him a lighter. "Bro, have one." The officer was taken aback. "You read pretty smooth with that offering move." We lit up and chatted a bit. The atmosphere immediately warmed up. He asked, "Here for a case?" "Yeah, I've got all the documents, but the application process is a bit slow. My case is urgent. The higher-ups need it." The officer slapped his thigh. "Why didn't you say so earlier? Give me the documents. I'll handle it for you today." Li Shuezhen stared wide-eyed beside me. After we went in, she whispered, "Lawyer Su, isn't this knowingly breaking the law?" "You almost left her." "What do you mean by knowingly breaking the law? Do we bribe anyone? Give gifts? Violate any rules?" "All procedures are compliant. It's just that the progress is a bit faster. This is called navigating social nuances, understand?" Li Shuezhen nodded thoughtfully. "I get it, Lawyer Su. Good, you're teachable." When I met Wang Li, he was in low spirits. He looked at me with droopy eyes. "Lawyer, do I still have a chance?" I handed over the retainer agreement. "I promised your parents, if we can't reduce your sentence, we don't charge." Wang Li went through the contract, and finally a glimmer of light returned to his eyes. "Really sure? As long as you cooperate fully." "Cooperate? I'll definitely cooperate." I signaled Li Shuezhen to take notes, and we went through every detail of the incident and the trial responses from the first and second instances. Half an hour later, I had a clear picture in my mind. Back at the law firm, I told Li Shuezhen to prepare the materials for the final appeal. When she took the documents, her eyes nearly popped out. "Lawyer Su, are we really going this hard?" "Our litigation demands are, first, to overturn the first and second instance judgments and declare Wang Li innocent. Second, to demand Nandu Bank compensate Wang Li 200,000 yuan for lost wages and emotional distress. Third, that Nandu Bank issue a public apology lasting no less than 20 days. Fourth, that bank executives come forward to clarify the facts and apologize to victims of similar mistreatment. Is this feasible?" "Very feasible. Go ahead." In the following days, Li Shuezhen ran around the city like she was injected with adrenaline, putting full-time enthusiasm into free labor. I also had her compile a list of victims of similar incidents at Nandu Bank in recent years, calling them one by one. Hello, we are Baijun Law Firm, currently suing Nandu Bank. You experienced unfair treatment there before, right? Interested in seeing how they lose the case. Li Xuezhen watched me make the calls. Half admiration, half a mind-blown moment. Attorney Su, they never taught us this in school. Did school teach you how to win a case? She bit her lower lip, her eyes lighting up. Teacherly, I've learned. Everything is ready. Nandu Bank also applied for a live-streamed court trial, and the court approved the joint hearing of both cases. On the day of the trial, a huge crowd of reporters gathered outside the courthouse. They swarmed around the bank's legal counsel, a lawyer named Liam Mo, leaving me utterly neglected, not even a microphone in sight. Li Xuezhen felt a bit dejected. Attorney Su, the difference in treatment is huge. The bigger the difference, the better, I replied, straightening my suit and tie. The quieter it is now, the louder the slap will be when we win. Just as I was about to enter the courtroom, a young female reporter rushed over alone, carrying a camera on her shoulder. Attorney Su, may I ask you a few questions? Rare opportunity. I stopped, flashing a smile with my two little white teeth. Go ahead. How confident are you about winning this case? Very confident. I clear my throat. I am Su Bai from Baijun Law Firm, handling civil litigation and criminal defense. Welcome everyone to come to me with your cases. Fair and just, with reasonable fees. The female reporter froze for a second, probably never having seen such blatant self-promotion. We want to file a lawsuit. A case has come in. This is the first case for Su Bai since he transmigrated. Inevitably, there is a bit of stir in his heart. May I ask what kind of lawsuit you're looking to file? A criminal case or a civil case? The old lady hesitated and glanced at her husband. Su Bai noticed this subtle change in expression. He understood that she was worried about whether this law firm could be trusted. He stepped closer to the old lady. Showing two small teeth, he amplified his approachability infinitely. No matter what the case is, let us sit down and talk it over first. Don't worry, our firm just opened recently. Our prices are fair and reasonable. We won't ask for exorbitant fees. Why don't you two come in and sit for a while? Let us discuss the case first. It's free. The old man nodded at Su Bai. This lawyer looks clean and honest. He doesn't seem like a shady lawyer. Let us go in and sit down. Su Bai twitched the corner of his mouth. What do you mean by doesn't seem like a shady lawyer? Never mind. The firm isn't getting any cases right now. With no money coming in, the customer is king. I'll take that as a compliment. After the two elderly people sat down on the sofa, Su Bai placed 2 bottles of mineral water on the table, sat upright across from them with a straight face, and proceeded to question the elderly couple about the lawsuit, asking for specific details. Civil case or criminal case? The old woman and the old man exchanged a glance, and the old man slowly began to speak. The lawsuit we're handling is a criminal case. Can you elaborate on that? He was involved in an armed robbery for bank robbery, a major crime. I'd like to hire a lawyer to defend him, hopefully get the sentence reduced. Su Bai turned to size up the old man. Bank robbery? Sir, with your physique, could you even take down the neighborhood security guard? Not me, it's my son. The old man quickly added an explanation. Su Bai nodded. That sounds more like it. Otherwise, given this old man's physical condition, forget robbing a bank. Even if the bank security guard saw him coming to rob the place, they'd have to handle him with kid gloves, afraid of accidentally hurting the old man's legs. Bank robbery involves criminal prosecution issues. This kind of case is usually not easy to handle. But Su Bai wanted exactly something not easy to handle. To make the law firm famous. Briefly introduce the case and your demands. Su Bai's expression was serious and solemn. The old man sighed deeply. He described the general process of the whole case. Su Bai listened while recording key information. His pen would occasionally stop to ask some key questions. After 2 hours of case description and questioning, Su Bai finally figured out the general outline of the case, including the process and some basic information. The old man's name was Wang Zizhou. The old lady's name was Zhang Suifang. Both were retired workers from the local district of Nandu. They had a son in their old age, an only child. The case process was that the old man's son went to the bank to withdraw money to treat the old man's illness. The money withdrawn was the old man's deposit. Since it was not the account holder himself, the bank needed the old man's son to provide proof. The old man's son was holding his ID card. Even the household registration book and critical illness notice wouldn't do. The bank staff spoke harshly, insisting the old man come in person to personally prove that the old man's son was his son. Otherwise, they wouldn't process the withdrawal. But the old man was in the ICU, urgently needing the money to save his life. How could he prove it? Was he supposed to get up from his hospital bed and dash to the bank to verify that his son was indeed his son? At that rate, forget about getting the money. It would be a medical miracle instead. Just as the old man's son was arguing with the bank staff, a few robbers showed up. They directly robbed the bank, learning that the old man's son needed money to save a life. Without a second thought, they split a portion of the stolen cash and gave it to the old man's son. At that moment, the old man's son couldn't worry about the rest and took the money straight to the hospital. Later, the gang was caught. The old man's son, having taken the money, he was identified as an accomplice and convicted of aggravated robbery. Because the case was so severe, he received a heavy sentence. Yet, due to the old man's son having extenuating circumstances, the sentence was reduced to the maximum term of fixed-term imprisonment, along with a fine and confiscation of illegal gains. After a detailed investigation, Su Bai learned about the current law and order on Blue Star, which was roughly equivalent to the year 2000 on Earth. Such audacious crimes were actually quite common back then, given the state of public security at the time. Later, the old man filed an appeal, but unfortunately lost in the second instance, which upheld the original verdict. Now the case has entered the final instance stage. The final instance determines everything once the verdict is passed. No further appeals can be made, and the case is finalized. Listening to the old man's account, Su Bai frowned slightly. To apply for a second instance trial, new arguments and evidence must be submitted. A 20-year fixed-term imprisonment sentence for this case was actually a bit harsh. With new evidence, how could the first instance verdict be upheld? How did the second instance manage to maintain the first instance ruling? The lawyer's question mentioned the second instance lawyer. The old man was so angry his dentures flew out. "Damn it, scumbag lawyer, give me back my money." Su Bai stepped back to dodge the old man's dentures. "Don't get worked up, sir. Let's talk slowly. No physical attacks, please." Wang Zizhong felt a bit embarrassed. He awkwardly put his dentures back in. His mood calmed down a lot, but his tone was still full of anger. "Last time we hired a top law firm from the Southern Capital. That second instance lawyer claimed he was a top-tier lawyer for criminal cases. He demanded $188,000 in legal fees right off the bat. But in court, he only said 3 sentences. Okay, we accept the judge's ruling. 3 sentences earned him $188,000 in legal fees. That mouth was a golden mouth over $60,000 per sentence." Wang Zizhong was trembling with rage. Zhang Suifan beside him quickly patted Wang's back. Zizhong's back at it. "Lawyer Su's case this time has a huge impact. We heard that if it goes to a final appeal, the trial might be broadcast live online. We don't trust big law firms anymore. We approached many small firms, but none were willing to take it. This case, it has a huge influence, and they're going to use an online live trial format. Isn't that basically free advertising for the law firm? Take it. We must take it. There's nothing we can't handle." Su Bai, a notorious renegade of the law. How could he lose this case? Without any hesitation, Su Bai went all out to take this case. With a wave of his hand, he said, "I can take this case, and I guarantee you, if your son doesn't get a reduced sentence, or if you're not satisfied with the reduction, I'll waive my legal fees. If there's no reduction or you're not satisfied, I'll simply not charge any legal fees." Remembering that golden lawyer with 3 sentences, who earned 188,000 yuan, Wang Zizhong felt that Su Bai was a lawyer with a conscience. "You're a pretty good lawyer, huh? It's my duty. I'll never be an unscrupulous lawyer. Then let's sign the contract." Su Bai tentatively proposed, and Wang Zizhong agreed on the spot. "Sign it then." Su Bai didn't hesitate. He immediately found a contract template. After a general discussion with Wang Zizhong, he drafted the contract content and printed it out. The legal fee was calculated based on the final sentence length. For each year reduced from the sentence, pay 5,000 in legal fees. If the sentence is not reduced, only the basic legal service fee is needed. Compared to that silver-tongued lawyer, this was already a conscience price. This was also Su Bai's way to build the firm's reputation, intentionally keeping the legal fees low. After Su Bai signed his name, he handed the contract to Wang Zizhong. Wang Zizhong didn't hesitate and signed his name on it. At the moment when the pen left the paper, a system notification sounded in Su Bai's mind. Congratulations to the host for completing a case acceptance task. Reward, 50,000 in cash. The cash will be transferred to your account through legal means. Pending task. Win a lawsuit to claim the bronze chest reward. After seeing off the elderly couple, Wang Zizhong and his wife, Su Bai kept staring at his bank account, wondering how the system would use legal means to transfer the 50,000 yuan into his account. Soon, a message appeared in the notification box. Lawyer Su, last time I had marriage counseling with you. Thank you for the advice you gave me. I talked to my husband, as you said. Boo, that abusive man finally agreed to a divorce. I'm transferring you 50,000 yuan to express my gratitude. Let's meet when you're free. Staring at the 5-digit transfer, Su Bai was stunned. This works too. The message page showed a 5-digit transfer. Sure enough, it was a reasonable and legal way to transfer 50,000 in cash into the account. All right, system, you're awesome. You just made a big prediction. Su Bai accepted the 50,000 yuan. After exchanging a few more polite words with the client, he gathered the materials, ready to head to the court to copy the case files. Just then, a young, innocent-looking girl with a bun hairstyle walked into the law firm, her steps bouncing lightly as she moved, giving off an impression of being quite young. To be precise, she was a female student. How could he be so sure? Because from her eyes, he could see that naive, foolish clarity. A divorce case? She didn't look like the type. Before Su Bai could say anything, she gave him a deep 70-degree bow. Hello, Lawyer Su. I'm here to report in. Su Bai tried hard to recall, and finally found in the original host's memory some information about this girl. The female college student in front of him was a student from Nanda University of Political Science and Law, named Li Xuezhen. She was the intern lawyer the original host had recruited earlier, the kind without a salary, and today was her first day. Su Bai had completely forgotten about this. You're here. Good. Just tidy up a bit, and come with me to the court. Li Xuezhen was originally in the law department of Nanda University, a top student in her senior year, studying under a leading authority in the legal field. Her senior fellow students were spread across top-tier red circle law firms, courts, and top corporate legal departments, and the like. As a student of this top legal luminary, especially as she was deeply loved by her teacher, and was the cherished disciple of her senior fellow students. When it came time for internships, her senior fellow students and teacher all wanted to arrange her internship placement, courts or red circle firms, as long as she wanted to go. It was just a word away. But Li Xuezhen had her own thoughts. She didn't want to rely on her teacher and the connections of her senior fellow students. She wanted to establish herself in the legal field through her own abilities, worried that if she went to a big firm, she would run into her senior fellow students and be dragged back. So she submitted her resume to a small law firm, the kind where she would work for free, planning to first hone her own abilities. Upon hearing that they were going to court right away, the time to prove herself had come. Li Xuezhen's eyes lit up. Okay, attorney Su. On the way to the Southern Capital Intermediate Court. Attorney Su, what case are we handling this time? Are we going to court for mediation? Li Xuezhen, handling a case formally for the first time, was somewhat looking forward to the entire process. She couldn't help but ask Su Bai for this suddenly appearing free intern lawyer was also patient enough. After all, he would have to assign some errand tasks to Li Xuezhen later, especially since she was the free kind. This also gave him a sense of guilt for being a capitalist. The criminal case I just took on is at the final appeal stage, going to court to retrieve the case files. First, to see how the first and second trials were judged. A criminal case. She encountered a criminal case on her first try. This made Li Xuezhen, who had always aspired to be a criminal defense lawyer, feel a surge of excitement. Her heart was racing, but she steadied herself. Without asking further questions, she silently followed Su Bai to the courthouse. Su Bai was very familiar with court procedures. Arriving at the relevant location, Su Bai deliberately found a female staff member. Hello, I'd like to access the case files. Okay. Please present your documents. The female staff member, who had initially looked impatient, suddenly became much more enthusiastic upon seeing such a handsome lawyer. Her service attitude improved considerably. After Su Bai submitted all the relevant documents and proof of identity, within just half an hour, they had copied the entire first and second trial case files. There's no helping it, even a lawyer's job relies on good looks. It saved a lot of trouble. After obtaining the files, Su Bai casually handed them to Li Xuezhen. Pack them up carefully and don't lose them. We'll review them when we get back to the office. Okay, atorne Su. Li Xuezhen carefully took the files and placed them in her bag. After returning to the office, Su Bai took out the first trial case file and handed the second trial case file to Li Xuezhen. Summarize the litigation issues raised by the prosecution in the second trial. I'll need to review them later. Okay, lawyer Su. But the defense lawyer's arguments and litigation issues are also important. Don't you need a summary of that too? Li Xuezhen blinked with naive curiosity, raising the question. What's so interesting about the golden mouth speech? Su Bai shook his head. Review the case file first. Li Xuezhen nodded and didn't press further, lowering her head to flip through the case file. When she turned to the first page, she understood why Su Bai didn't ask her to summarize the defense lawyer's arguments. Logically, the defense's litigation issues were also important. But Li Xuezhen had seen this case before. That's because this case was one where a senior alumna who had graduated years ago presided as the presiding judge. At the time, as the presiding judge of the second trial, she also felt that the first trial's sentence was somewhat heavy. She even thought that if the defendant's side, only Wang Zizhong's lawyer could come up with any decent arguments for the defense, possibly leading to a reduced sentence on appeal. But no one expected that lawyer. When faced with questions from the plaintiff's attorney and the presiding judge, just nodded and said, uttering only 3 sentences the entire session. Damn, wasn't this just a lawyer ripping people off? In the end, the original verdict was upheld. Li Xuezhen was a bit worried. The first and second trial rulings, being the same, could impact the application for a final appeal. Also, when the first and second trials agree, it heavily influences the final judgment, unless there's some key, groundbreaking new evidence or reasoning. Otherwise, most likely the original verdict will stand. As a trainee lawyer, could her first case really end up dead in the water like this? Li Xuezhen felt uneasy inside. The public prosecutor for this case, she had deliberately noted, was said to be quite formidable. Even the bank's in-house legal team had mentioned that if the other party appeals again, it will be taken seriously. She specifically asked one of her senior brothers who specialized in criminal cases. The answer was that the bank's legal department had put in extreme effort. Without subversive evidence and arguments, there was no way to win. Not only was there a risk of losing, but also a heavier sentence could be imposed. The first case she encountered had already failed. A feeling of despair spread in Li Xuezhen's heart. Su Bai closed the case file, already having a rough idea after reading it. The verdict of this case, in his mind, was already almost certain. Let's go. Li Xuezhen, who had just been immersed in the despair of being unable to, when the case was suddenly interrupted by Su Bai. Now confused. Where to? This case is almost finalized. Let's go see Wang Zizhong's son and that group of criminal suspects. Hear what they have to say. Are we going to lose? We haven't even started the trial yet. This case is indeed quite difficult. Lawyer Su, you need to be strong. Su Bai joked, the word lose doesn't exist in my dictionary. Lose? Wang Zizhong's son didn't commit robbery at all. How could I possibly lose? Huh? No robbery? Lawyer Su, what does that mean? Wait until the trial starts. It's a secret for now. The corners of Su Bai's mouth lifted slightly, full of confidence as he strode forward. Li Xuezhen was curious about Su Bai's words, but she didn't press further, trotting along to keep up with him. The case of Wang Zizhong's son, Wang Li, had always been controversial. After losing both the first and second trials, the court's final ruling had not yet come down. Wang Li was still being held in the detention center. On the way to the detention center, they passed by a convenience store. Su Bai told Li Xuezhen to wait outside and went in himself. Within 2 minutes, he came out with 2 packs of Huazi cigarettes in his pocket. Li Xuezhen looked at Su Bai with some curiosity. He put 2 packs of cigarettes into his inner pocket. Lawyer Su, do you smoke? Review the case file first. I don't, but you can't ignore the ways of the world, understand? You'll see in a bit. Li Xuezhen nodded thoughtfully. When they arrived outside the detention center, Su Bai straightened his suit. He didn't go straight in. Instead, he waited until a burly man in law enforcement uniform walked out of the detention center. The man went to a corner and fumbled in his pocket. Su Bai stepped forward and handed him a lighter. "Brother, have one with me," he said, pulling out a pack of Huazi from his pocket. He tore open the packaging and expertly flicked out a cigarette. The burly man was taken aback. "Brother, you're pretty smooth with that cigarette flicking." "Sure, I'll take one." "One, just one." Su Bai gave the pack a little shake. The man took it with a generous laugh. After lighting the Huazi, he took a deep drag. "This Huazi is good quality, brother. You here for case?" "I'm a lawyer, here to investigate a case. I want to request a meeting with the suspect. The case is urgent. The process here is a bit slow. I have to wait some time. So I stepped out for a smoke to get some fresh air." The man suddenly slapped his thigh. "The process may be slow, but why didn't you just tell me? Seeing that you shared a smoke with me, brother, I owe you one. I swear, I'll get it done for you today no matter what. Do you have all the materials ready?" "All ready." Su Bai waved for Li Xuezhen to bring the materials over. The sturdy man gave the materials a quick glance, then nodded with a smile. "The materials are pretty much all here. Brother, go ahead and wait at the service hall." "Thanks, brother." Su Bai waved his hand. "Don't mention it, we're brothers." After the man left, Li Xuezhen looked at what had just happened, somewhat stunned. That actually worked? "Lawyer Su, isn't this knowingly breaking the law?" "Su Bai, this young lady just doesn't get it. It seems I need to give a proper explanation. What does it mean to knowingly break the law? Your interpretation of this legal issue isn't quite right. Was there any exchange of interests? Do we deviate from normal procedures? All procedures are in compliance with the rules and regulations. We simply sped up the progress a bit. Where is the illegal behavior? Can you understand this point?" Li Xuezhen nodded seriously. "I understand, Attorney Su. Isn't this what we call social savvy?" Su Bai showed an approving look. "Not bad. You're teachable. It's normal for a college student just starting an internship not to understand. Take your time to learn. Litigation is not just about the law. It's about the interpretation of the law in court. The procedure for a case is quite troublesome. Of course, some other skills are also needed, such as today's social savvy." Su Bai and Li Xuezhen waited in the detention center's waiting hall for about half an hour. Then a detention officer came up to Su Bai. A guard came to Su Bai. He is not the same law enforcement officer as before. "You are lawyer Su Bai from Baijun Law Firm." "Yes, I am." Su Bai stood up and said, Your application has been approved. Prepare a little. We will summon the suspect later." "Okay, thank you." Su Bai politely thanked him. Soon, Wang Li was summoned. Su Bai brought Li Xuezhen into the summons room. After the law enforcement officers left, Su Bai smiled and spoke. "Hello, I am lawyer Su Bai, the attorney entrusted with your case. Wang Zizhong and his wife had a child later in life. They were 38 when they had their only son, Wang Li. Now Wang Li is just over 30 years old. Wang Li's spirits were very low. After going through the first and second trials, the half-baked older brother in the detention center had given him a bit of legal common knowledge. Wang Li no longer had any hope of getting a reduced sentence. Looked up at Su Bai. His eyes were completely devoid of vitality. "Lawyer, hello. Do you think I still have a chance?" A slight smile curled at the corner of Su Bai's mouth. "A chance? Of course you do. I've already promised your parents. If I can't win a case or get your sentence reduced, there will be no lawyer fees." Wang Li jerked his head up. "Really? You're not messing with me? No fee if you lose? Are you confident you can win the case?" Su Bai took out the signed engagement contract. "This is the clause in the engagement contract regarding lawyer fee settlement. You could take a look." Wang Li flipped through the engagement contract. It really said no fee if the case isn't won or the sentence isn't reduced. But then he thought about what the old guy in the detention center had told him, and Wang Li's spirits sank. "Lawyer Su, I believe you're not a shyster. But as for these lawyer fees, you probably won't find it easy to collect. Since I chose to take this case, I'm certainly confident about winning. There shouldn't be any problem. I'm just asking you, do you want a reduced sentence and to get out of prison? As long as you cooperate well, sentence reduction shouldn't be a big problem. The extent of the reduction mainly depends on your own attitude." A slight smile curled at the corner of Su Bai's mouth. He had full confidence in this case. I'll cooperate. Seeing Su Bai's confidence, Bamli Nudda Khabili, a glimmer of hope reignited in his heart. Su Bai signaled Li Xuezhen to take notes. He began to inquire about the details of the incident. and the relevant responses during the first and second trials. Half an hour later, Su Bai walked out of the detention center with satisfaction. He had confirmed everything he needed to and was preparing to take the case to court. Back at the law firm, Su Bai briefly organized the trial materials. He called Li Xuezhen into the office. The so-called office was nothing more than a small partitioned space in the firm, created with a few pieces of cloth, not even soundproof. Notify the old couple, Wang Zizhong, and prepare to apply for the final trial. You should also prepare the materials to submit for the final trial. You should also prepare the materials for the final appeal. Applying for a final appeal requires new evidence. Lawyer Su, what is our claim? I've already prepared the evidence and the claim. To make a trip there, Su Bai handed the organized materials to Li Xuezhen. Li Xuezhen opened it and looked, rubbing her eyes in uncertainty. Lawyer Su, if we submit it like this, won't it be a bit too aggressive? This case needs a powerful punch. It has to be bold. Go handle it. Li Xuezhen walked out of the office with a bewildered expression. She stepped out of the office, taking another uncertain look at the application materials Su Bai had given her. She gasped. She confirmed one thing in her heart. She had truly come to the right law firm. If they actually won the case, then following Su Bai would mark her first step forward, establishing herself in the legal world. Li Xuezhen had come to this law firm precisely to start from a small practice, to make a name in the legal world step by step with real skill. If this bank prosecution case could be won, then as an intern lawyer, she would have been part of it, right? The more she thought about it, the more excited and motivated she became. Every day, she rushed between the law firm and the courthouse. And even without pay, she was full of energy. Su Bai could only marvel at young people of this age, especially intern lawyers who were so full of hope. He took a sip of the Maojian tea that cost $999 for 3 jin, and his guilt as a capitalist eased just a little bit. Soon, the application for the final review of Wang Zizhong's son Wang Li's case was submitted and approved. At the same time, the court summons also arrived at the bank's legal department. After receiving the court notice, the bank internally was somewhat surprised, suing the bank for improper operations. That led to the client Wang Li being sentenced, seeking compensation for personal injury, and 20,000 yuan in moral damages. What does this mean? In Wang Li's case, the bank, as the victim side, didn't even ask the court to deal with him severely, and now they've actually received a lawsuit from the other party. A court summons against themselves. Isn't this purely ridiculous? The robber isn't right now. The person in charge of Nandu Bank was extremely angry about this matter. The other party has already bullied them to their face. What uncles can tolerate, aunts cannot. Immediately contacted the legal department to seriously handle this matter. The legal department immediately held a meeting to discuss the lawsuit. Originally, the lawyers from Nandu Bank's legal department thought the other party was some big law firm, but after investigation, they found out the other party's law firm was just a marriage consulting firm and couldn't help laughing. What does this mean? Are they crazy? A tiny marriage consulting firm taking on a criminal case is one thing, but now they've actually taken the initiative to sue our bank. This is just too eager for fame. Haha, this is simply a joke. Just take it as a clown show. Probably this law firm is crazy for fame. Try to seek attention in such an extreme way. I really don't understand. How could a marriage counseling lawyer dare to take a criminal public prosecution case? Another one just trying to scam money. Who knows? All right, everyone, stop talking. Su Jiqiang, head of the legal department of Nandu Bank, had a square face that naturally commanded authority. As his voice fell, the previously loud meeting room instantly fell silent. The bank's leadership is very concerned about our litigation case and insists on winning. Winning is not the most important thing. The key is to win convincingly. Preferably, make the opposing party's sentence even harsher. Understand? Everyone here is a legal professional well-versed in banking, laws, and regulations. Facing by June law firm, they hardly took it seriously. According to the information from the minister, Baijun law firm is just a solo practice, mainly a consulting-based law firm. The practicing lawyer, Su Bai, has been licensed for 5 years and has handled a total of 5 cases, losing 4. The one he won was a tough victory, as his client's joint marital property was preserved, but the client was convicted of bigamy. If our legal department can't beat a lawyer like that, wouldn't that be a sheer embarrassment? A male lawyer who looked no older than 20 spoke arrogantly, and the others chimed in. If we let someone like that win, then the reputation of our bank would be completely ruined. When against him, how could we possibly lose? The lawyers in the bank's legal department were extremely cocky. Looking down on such a small consulting firm, they applied to the court for a live-stream trial, requesting that Wang Li's final appeal and the lawsuit against the bank be consolidated into one case. This case was quite unusual. Soon it caught the attention of the Handel Court Nandu High Court and gained approval, which was closely linked to the bank's operations. Meanwhile, based on the special aspects of this case, the topic of robbing a bank to save his father, sentenced to 20 years in prison, easily became a hot topic online. During the first and second trials of Wang Li's case, public opinion had already brewed online. Now, at the final trial, online discussions about Wang Li's case gradually resurfaced. How the hell did the bank become the vulnerable party now? When withdrawing money, they ask for this and that, but they're proactive in offering credit cards. Support Wang Li. If the bank hadn't been so troublesome, Wang Li would have withdrawn the money to save his father long ago, and there would be no need to rob the bank at all. Exactly, when depositing money, bank staff act like grandkids, but when withdrawing money, I'm the one treated like a damn grandkid. Support. You guys simply don't understand the bank's pain. Actually, the bank has its own grievances too. Otherwise, why do you think every time a bank has a major issue with withdrawals or lost money, it's always blamed on temporary workers? Actually, it's not entirely the bank's fault in this matter. The blame goes to the temp workers, earning 5 cents each. Upstairs commenter, please add me to the group. I want to make that money too. Online public opinion is unanimously blaming the bank. When the head of Nandu Bank saw the online public opinion, he was so angry it hurt and gave a strict order. This time, in a live stream court hearing, we must win the case. And we must also achieve victory in public opinion. If that cannot be done, then replace everyone in the legal department. Inside by June law firm, Su Bai was happily scrolling through videos, a slight smile curling at the corners of his mouth as he saw the overwhelming public opinion. So far, this lawsuit against Nandu Bank, along with Wang Li's final trial, has drawn widespread attention. Win, and the firm gains fame. Lose, and the firm is disgraced. Li Xuezhen looked at the online public opinion. Mixed feelings of joy and worry on one hand, it has caused such a big stir. With such a big commotion, if we win, we'll definitely become famous. But if we lose, it will be a huge stain. Lawyer Su, our law firm has caused such a stir this time. It's so big, what if? Su Bai sat up on the recliner and looked up. His view was blocked by a piece of clothing. He tilted his head slightly to see Li Xuezhen's face. No what ifs. I asked you to organize the cases involving Nandu Bank in recent years and the contact information of the victims. Have you sorted them out? I've already sorted them out. Let me see. Li Xuezhen handed the materials to Su Bai. Su Bai directly flipped the materials to the page with the contact information of the bank lawsuit victims. Then he started calling the first number. Hello, I'm a lawyer from Baijun Law Firm. I heard that you once sued Nandu Bank at time, but lost the case. Would you be interested in seeing how Nandu Bank loses a case? Oh, yes. Okay, thank you for coming to support. After hanging up the phone, he called the second contact. Using the same script, Li Xuezhen looked at Su Bai, a flicker of surprise in her eyes. He could find witnesses like this. Li Xuezhen watched Su Bai's actions, not quite understanding. This was completely different from what was taught in school. Well, how to put it? It felt very unorthodox, but it was very effective. From Su Bai, she couldn't see much of the demeanor of a professional top-tier lawyer, but she learned quite a bit. Social savvy counted as one. Today's witness finding counted as another. Together, that made two. Both were useful. Don't just stand there, come over and make calls. I can't finish all these calls alone. Li Xuezhen heard Su Bai's voice and snapped back to reality. Oh, okay. At 10 p.m., after finishing this task, Su Bai took a sip of tea and let out a long breath. All the preparatory work was finally done. Foolproof. Now we just wait for the trial. The court's pre-trial mediation. As expected, Nandu Bank refused the possibility of mediation and declared they would definitely win the lawsuit. Su Bai scoffed at such declarations. Anyone can boast outside the courtroom, Let's see who really has the grit inside the trial chamber. That's when you'll learn what society is really like. Time quickly came for the trial to begin. Since this case had stirred up considerable buzz online, making it newsworthy. Before entering the trial venue, many journalists were waiting at the courthouse entrance. As soon as Nandu Bank's lawyer arrived, they were immediately mobbed by reporters. May I ask the legal team of Nandu Bank, have you seen the online discussions about this case? How likely do you think you are to win this case? What do you think of your opposing law firm, Baijun Law Firm? What are your views on this case? The judge presiding over this trial is from the Ministry of Justice. The young lawyer in his 20s was named Liam O. Liam O cleared his throat twice, looking confident. In response to the inquiries from our journalist friends, I want to say that the online comments Nandu Bank has already looked into it. We will explain later. As for the probability of winning the lawsuit, don't worry about that. I believe everyone has their own judgment on this. This court session was conducted live. If you're interested, you can watch the live stream. As for the opposing law firm, you guys can search Baidu for it. I can't really comment on it here. Liam O finished speaking and lifted his head, holding his head high amid a crowd of journalists. Then entered the courtroom. Compared to Liam O's legal team at Nandu Bank being interviewed by reporters, Su Bai's side has become much quieter. Almost no reporters paid attention. Lawyer Su, the treatment between our two sides is different. What a great distance. Li Shuazhen exclaimed. Su Bai raised an eyebrow. How big is the current gap in treatment? How crazy the subsequent media reports slaps in the face would be. Don't worry about them. Let's go in. Just as the two were about to enter the courtroom, a young female journalist, who looked quite inexperienced, came running over with a camera on her shoulder. Excuse me, are you Su Bai, the lawyer from Baijun Law Firm? I am, you are. Hello, I'm a reporter from Elephant Media. Would it be possible to have a quick interview with you? The young female journalist looked a bit nervous, probably because she hadn't been in the business for long. A faint smile curled at the corner of Su Bai's mouth. Sure. The young journalist let out a sigh of relief and acted very professional. Hello, lawyer Su Bai. I heard that the legal department of Nandu Bank has a combined win rate at Nandu Court that once reached as high as 86%. Lawyer Su Bai, what do you think are the chances that your Baijun Law Firm will win this lawsuit? This time, cough. Su Bai cleared his throat twice and adjusted his suit. Regarding the lawsuit against Nandu Bank and the final verdict of Wang Li's case, our Baijun Law Firm is very confident. Everyone is welcome to entrust us with your legal matters by Jun Law Firm. The female journalist paused for a few seconds, slightly disheartened. This was purely an advertisement, but her professionalism kept a smile on her face. Then I hope attorney Su wins the case, and that the firm continues to grow stronger. Thank you. Su Bai smiled and turned around. He led Li Shuazhen into the courtroom, waiting for the trial to begin. Li Shuazhen looked slightly nervous. Attorney Su, this trial is being broadcast live. What if something goes wrong? There won't be any what-ifs unless the presiding judge deliberately makes a wrong ruling. If that happens, this case will become even more sensational. A faint smile curved on Su Bai's lips as he signaled Li Shuazhen not to worry. In this parallel world, the law is taken very seriously. The law possesses true sanctity. All are equal before the law. There is no judicial favoritism. If there is any objection, file a request for reconsideration. Just see whether the judicial officers can enter or not, that's all. Judges generally also enforce the law strictly according to its provisions. Regarding the presiding judge and the judge of this trial, Su Bai has already learned about them. The presiding judge is a female judge, Yu Tsaixia, the vice president of Nandu Court. She has deep research into law and many years in the court. She has presided over hundreds of trials, judging with solid reasoning and evidence. This time, the Nandu Bank robbery case is presided over by Yu Tsaixia. Regarding encountering unfair treatment, Su Bai has no worries at all, because Yu Tsaixia is known for her impartial judgment. Li Shuazhen, what do you mean? Never mind what it means, the trial is about to start. At this moment, the staff has already come to Su Bai. After confirming his identity, they signaled that he could enter. After both lawyers are seated, the clerk begins to read the court rules. In order to maintain court discipline and uphold the dignity of the court, the following court rules are now read. 1. The parties, their legal representatives, and Members of the audience must follow the presiding judge's instructions. 2. When judicial personnel enter the court and the presiding judge or sole judge announces the court's ruling, all present shall stand. The reading is complete. Please invite the presiding judge and judges to enter the court. All rise. Yu Tsai-xia and the 2 judges walk into the courtroom. The gavel is struck. The court is now in session. Then, the basic information of the personnel is verified. At the same time, outside the court, a live broadcast of the trial has many people paying attention to this trial's live stream. Inside the legal department of Nandu Bank, Wang Wu, the head of Nandu Bank, and the legal department head, Su Jiqiang, are watching the live broadcast. After seeing the court open, Wang Wu looks up and asks, Jiqiang, the court has just opened. It started not long ago. There are already hundreds of people in the trial live stream room. This time, our bank's legal department cannot lose, understand? Su Jiqiang nods with a smile. Wang Xing, rest assured. This time, our legal department is well prepared. As you requested, our legal department not only cannot lose, but must win with style, at least to suppress public opinion. Good. Wang Wu nodded in satisfaction. This court session is a live broadcast, and many media outlets are promoting it online. Nandu Bank is under immense pressure. If they lose the trial, then the reputation of Nandu Bank will suffer serious consequences. Wang Wu, the head of Nandu Bank, will also be severely affected, so they cannot lose. Watching the live trial are not only relevant personnel of Nandu Bank, but also many media outlets reposting the broadcast. After all, this trial has considerable popularity. It's good for media to ride the wave of attention. One well-known legal commentator is live streaming and explaining the court proceedings. The current courtroom scene. The judge is verifying the information of the parties and their lawyers. This is a normal step in court proceedings. On the left are the legal counsel for the defendant, Nandu Bank. On the right are the lawyers from the plaintiff, Baijun law firm. Since this is a consolidated trial, there are also prosecutors on the left. The legal commentator watched the live trial and shook their head slightly. Judging by the setup, it would be very difficult for Baijun law firm to win the case, though there is still a chance for the defendant to get a reduced sentence. The comments below were unanimous. Indeed, although people hoped spiritually that Baijun law firm could win, it seemed unlikely. After all, they're suing a bank. Yeah, that makes sense, but it's still hard to accept. The comment section was consistently pessimistic. Then, suddenly, a comment appeared. What do you think could there be a miracle? For example, the lawyer from Baijun law firm. On the right might actually be a hidden heavyweight. A flurry of rebuttals follow below. It looks bad that lawyer is too young to win the case. Legal commentator Luo Daxiang nodded slightly. This case is indeed very difficult to win. Let's not comment too much and just keep watching. If there's anything you don't understand during the trial, I'll explain it. In the courtroom, after confirming the information, Yu Tsai-xia struck the gavel. Now, please let the plaintiff state the facts and reasons, as well as the appeal request. Su Bai sat at the lawyer's bench. Knowing the critical moment had come, he adjusted his suit slightly and recited the complaint. Our demands are very simple. First, we refuse to accept the judgments of the first and second trials. Our client clearly did not commit any crime. It was falsely accused of robbery. We appeal to have the first and second trial judgments revoked. We request the original judgments be overturned, and our client be declared innocent. Second, we request compensation from the defendant, which is Nandu Bank, for our client, due to Nandu Bank's erroneous judgment, resulted in our client being wrongly sentenced to 20 years imprisonment, causing long-term detention in the detention center. Seeking compensation for our client of 200,000 yuan for lost wages, mental anguish, and reputation damage. This amount was meticulously calculated and is not excessive. Third, because Nandu Bank caused severe harm to our clients' reputation, we demand that Nandu Bank provide a public apology to our client, including but not limited to Weibo, short video platforms, and other major platforms, issuing an apology, with the apology displayed for no less than 20 days. Fourth, we require senior management of Nandu Bank to come forward, to clarify the facts, not only to exonerate our client, but also to apologize to those who have suffered similar treatment at Nandu Bank. The courtroom was dead silent. Everyone, are these lawsuit demands serious? Not only do they demand overturning the first and second instance verdicts, they also claim the client is innocent and deserves exoneration. All right, that's one thing, but they even demand compensation from Nandu Bank? You're a robber's lawyer, aren't you? Yet you're actually applying for bank compensation for your client. For 20,000 yuan in lost wages and emotional damages, and 200,000 in reputation damages? Are you trying to rob them again, right here? And with a clear price tag, a brazen robbery at that. In comparison, the third and fourth claims are child's play. Not worth mentioning. In a live broadcast of the trial outside the courtroom, viewers watching the live stream weren't just ordinary viewers. Even some court staff watching the case, along with lawyers and legal practitioners, were stunned. They had originally thought that this lawsuit against Nandu Court would definitely fail. But the influence of this live trial was so great, and the judge was a senior judge who might grant a reduced sentence. Overall, it would still be profitable, barely a victory. But making such a request in a lawsuit, are you making wishes? Even when making wishes, you wouldn't dare go this far. Whoa, this lawyer is 666, bros. Spam 666 across the whole screen. Win or lose. This lawsuit application is absolutely unprecedented. It might even be recorded in legal proceedings as a classic case. Ha, that's awesome. Even making a wish wouldn't dare to make such a request. Even Buddha couldn't fulfill it. Don't mock it yet. Let's see what teacher Luo thinks. Luo Daxiang shook his head slightly. Since an application has been filed, there must be corresponding factual basis for it. The lawyer's request seems very absurd, but the specific outcome depends on the factual basis. He provides, if there's no relevant evidence, it's a false statement, which is perjury. As a lawyer, he shouldn't make such a mistake. I can't say for sure. Let's keep watching. Inside the legal department of Nandu Bank, Wang Wu frowned slightly, while Su Jiqiang beside him smiled and said, Director Wang, this lawsuit application is nothing but grandstanding. Let's see if he can provide factual basis or legal arguments. He might even end up behind bars for perjury. When the time comes, our Nandu Bank's public opinion will be an instant win. Wang Wu stared intently at the live trial broadcast. But remember, no matter what this trial, our Nandu Bank must win beautifully. Understood, understood. Su Jiqiang said with a fawning smile. In court, Yu Tsaixia at Su Bai submitted. Application and petition frowned slightly. Isn't this lawsuit request just nonsense? At this moment, Liamo couldn't help but sneer and speak. This lawsuit request, may I ask the plaintiff's attorney, can you provide relevant factual evidence and legal justifications? If you can't provide them, you could be sentenced for obstructing justice. Su Bai smiled slightly. This seems to have nothing to do with the defendant's attorney, does it? Judge, the opposing attorney is making verbal attacks against me, attempting to disrupt normal judicial proceedings. I request that the opposing counsel leave his seat. You, Liamo, were about to say something on the trial stand. Yu Tsaixia frowned slightly and banged the gavel. Bang! Application denied. The plaintiff's lawyer's request is rejected. It is not yet time for the defense lawyer to speak. Defense lawyer, a warning. Facing the banged gavel and the warning, Liamo could only swallow his anger. He choked back the words he was about to say. Chapter 8. Courtroom Scene. Unable to hold back any longer, Liamo narrowed his eyes and stared fiercely at Su Bai. How could this guy be such a snitch? Which law school did he graduate from? Not only are his motions nonsense, but now, whenever he says a word, this jerk across from him applies to have him removed. Removed means leaving the courtroom temporarily because it affects the court or the opposing party. It's obvious that his words just now didn't disturb the other side at all, but the other party is just so disgusting. He actually applied to have him removed. Liamo took a long breath to comfort himself. The lawsuit request from this lawyer is completely, entirely baseless. It has already disrupted the normal judicial process. If the other party cannot produce evidence, they will face detention or even criminal detention. Not only would he win this lawsuit directly, he would also win the public opinion battle for Nandu Bank. There's no need to be angry at all. Liamo gradually calmed down. On the bench, Yu Tsaixia furrowed her brow slightly. She opened her mouth to warn the plaintiff's lawyer, Su Bai. As the presiding judge, I have the duty to further confirm. regarding the lawsuit application you submitted. If there is no factual basis or legal basis as a defense, according to criminal law, committing perjury in court will result in prosecution for false litigation. Criminal liability will be pursued according to law. Are you sure there is no problem with your lawsuit application? Beside her, Li Shuezhen's nervous face was covered with tiny beads of sweat. Wanted to tug at Su Bai's sleeve to calm him down. But Su Bai nodded seriously. Presiding judge, I know that making false statements will have consequences. I am responsible for all my statements in court. Gasps. The courtroom immediately erupted in commotion. Bang bang. Order in the court. Yu Caixia struck the gavel, then continued. All right, since you have confirmed your petition, then next, please let the defendant, Nandu Bank, state their defense and petition. The opportunity to refute has arrived. Li Mo, as the lawyer for Nandu Bank, straightened his back slightly and read out his defense and petition. Our defense opinion is as follows. First, regarding the plaintiff, that is, the litigation party Wang Li's side. All accusations against our side, Nandu Bank, are dismissed, and we request that this egregious behavior be dealt with seriously. Impose severe and strict punishment on them to instill reverence for the law. Second, request to uphold the plaintiff's Nandu primary court and Nandu intermediate court's first and second instance judgments. Third, demand compensation for the losses to our reputation caused by the plaintiff, with total compensation amount of 500,000. Fourth, demand the plaintiff bear all our legal fees. Presiding judge, my defense and appeal are concluded. Li Mo has finished stating the defense opinions and litigation requests. Zong, Yu Caixia struck the gavel. Both parties have presented their claims. Next, please let the plaintiff's side present relevant legal fact evidence. As Yu Caixia's voice fell, everyone's eyes fell on Su Bai. After all, the plaintiff's litigation application was far too outrageous. Whether it was the personnel at the trial scene or those watching the live stream, all fixed their eyes on Su Bai, wanting to see what facts and legal basis he would present. Li Shuezhen, as Su Bai's assistant, was so nervous that her palms were sweating. Attorney Su, what should we do now? Do we have any evidence or legal basis? Wait, do we have evidence or basis? Li Shuezhen kept flipping through the litigation documents in her hands. Su Bai, what kind of talk is that? As an intern lawyer at the firm, you're still worried about this now? As an intern lawyer at the firm, you're still worried about this now? Su Bai took the documents from Li Shuezhen's hands and said unhurriedly, before submitting the relevant legal basis to the presiding judge, I would like to ask my client to describe the incident as it happened. Bang. The request is granted. Now, please have the client describe the incident as it happened. At the client's seat, Wang Li slowly stood up from his seat. He glanced at the two bailiffs beside him, looking slightly nervous. When his eyes met Su Bai's, his mood calmed down a little. Your Honor, I'd like a sip of water. Granted. After Yu Caixia said that, the bailiff handed Wang Li a bottle of water. After drinking, Wang Li's nervousness completely dissipated. He began, the incident itself was quite simple. My father was in the ICU and urgently needed money. I went to Nandu Bank to withdraw cash. The bank staff refused me because I wasn't the account holder. They told me to have my father come to the bank in person or provide proof that I was his son. Even my household registration booklet wasn't accepted. I remember while I was arguing with the bank staff, a group of robbers suddenly burst into the bank. They robbed the place. One of the robbers noticed me sitting on the floor, crying my heart out. He gave me part of the stolen money. Then I took the money and went to the hospital to pay the bills. Su Bai raised his hand. Your Honor, I request to ask my client some detailed questions. Bang bang. The gavel struck. Allow the party's lawyer to question the party on relevant details of the case, but not to inquire into matters unrelated to the case or to guide the party's subjective intent. Okay, presiding judge. After obtaining Yu Caixia's consent, Su Bai asked, did you, the party, participate in the robbery at that time? No. Then could you describe in detail the process of how the robbers handed the money to you? Wang Li frowned slightly, trying to recall. At that time, I remember a short robber. He saw me on the ground, holding my head and crying bitterly. He cursed me, calling me a coward, saying I was so scared. I told him it was because my father was in the hospital. I didn't get the money I withdrew, and I was worried about my father, so I was crying. That robber seemed to be robbing the bank also, to get money to save his family. Hearing about my situation, he took out 2 stacks of money and stuffed them into my arms. Su Bai continued questioning. Then what did you do immediately after the robber stuffed the money into your arms? After that, what was the first thing you did? Wang Li answered quickly. I remember it very clearly. At first, I was too scared to take it. Then the robber scolded me, said I was an unfilial son, so I accepted the money. Good. Thank you for your cooperation. Your Honor, the prosecution has concluded its questioning. Bang! The gavel fell. Yu Xiao looked toward the litigant's seats. The plaintiff's attorney has finished questioning. Now, please proceed with your legal arguments. Very well, Your Honor. Su Bai slowly pulled out from the documents the key issues raised during the first trial by the public prosecutor. The key question raised by the opposing party during the trial. Your Honor, these are the prosecution's questions from the first trial, presented by the Nandu Primary Court during the initial hearing, along with the conviction and sentencing determination. I believe there are many problems with this judgment, many unreasonable aspects, cause serious harm to my client. Chapter 9. Crazy, Nandu Bank is going to lose. All eyes in the courtroom were fixed on Su Bai. The verdict of the first trial is unreasonable. This means he intends to overturn the first instance judgment. The jury and the audience in the courtroom all turned their attention to Su Bai. Even outside the live broadcast, the viewers watching the stream suddenly perked up. This means he's not satisfied with the first instance verdict, and he wants to overturn the legal judgment of the first trial. Haha, I feel like it's kind of looking that way. Yeah, that's the vibe. I won't even say 666 now. I'll just say awesome. No matter what the final verdict is, I think just the fact that he's trying to overturn the first trial is interesting enough. Regarding the unreasonable parts of the first instance judgment, raising questions is acceptable, but to overturn it, new evidence must be presented for argumentation. This young lawyer seems very confident. Just blindly support him, and that's it. Teacher Luo, tell us about it. After reading the comments, Luo Daxiang looked at the live courtroom broadcast and smiled slightly. This plaintiff's lawyer is very capable. At least his performance in court is quite good. But as for what this plaintiff's lawyer intends to do to overturn the first instance verdict, I'm not very clear at the moment, because my attention to this case was focused on the court's verdict. I'm not very familiar with the case files for the first and second trials, so I can't make a judgment. Anyway, let's just continue watching. In court, Yu Xiao frowned slightly, but spoke calmly. Regarding the first instance verdict by Nandu Primary Court, does the plaintiff's lawyer find anything unreasonable? You can use legal provisions to interpret and refute. Okay, Juronor Su Bai Nadif. This is the judgment of the Nandu Primary Court regarding our client's conviction as follows. First point, the Nandu Primary Court accuses our client of knowing that it was money robbed from a bank by a criminal suspect, yet still choosing to take it. Thus, the court determines our client's subjective intent was to forcibly take money from the bank, sentencing our client as an accomplice, or as one who took advantage of the bank robbery, guilty of the same crime. Second point, the Nandu Primary Court uses our client's, i.e., Wang Li's, communication with the criminal suspect as a further basis for its ruling. We disagree with these 2 points for the following reasons. First, as our client has just clearly stated, at that time, it was the criminal suspect who actively approached our client. The subsequent events are somewhat complicated to recount. Our client is referred to by his given name, Wang Li. First, Wang Li made it very clear that it was the criminal suspect who initiated the inquiry. Why was he crying at the bank? After hearing about his situation, people took the initiative to give him money to pay the hospital fees, to treat his father who was critically ill in the hospital. And at that very moment, Wang Li said his feelings were worry and fear. I asked the presiding judge. Wang Li's immediate reaction was fear. How could it possibly be, from a subjective intention standpoint, that Wang Li intended to forcibly take money from a bank? Immediate fear was Wang Li's subjective intention. Moreover, there is another point Wang Li mentioned. The criminal suspect cursed at him. Under those circumstances, the criminal suspect cursed at Wang Li, clearly expressing dissatisfaction with Wang Li's actions. The key point is that the criminal suspect was holding a dangerous weapon. One misstep could have easily endangered Wang Li. Under such circumstances, Wang Li's life had no guarantee of safety. According to the provisions of our country's laws, Wang Li meets the conditions for necessity. Therefore, he bears no criminal liability. Based on the above reasoning, regarding the second point of the judgment by the Nandu Primary Court, it is not recognized. The verdict of the second instance is identical to that of the first instance. Therefore, my client applies on this basis to have the judgments of the Nandu Primary Court and the Nandu Intermediate Court regarding my client Wang Li in the first instance and second instance overturned. Whoa! The courtroom erupted in commotion. Regarding the sharp questions raised by Su Bai, everyone was taken aback. Then, after some careful consideration, their eyes turned to Su Bai with admiration. Wang Li's eyes also lit up. He was innocent, saved, no need to go to jail. Nandu Bank was going to lose. Awesome. The marriage counselor lawyer his parents found. The criminal lawyer was amazing. Li Shuezhen also let out a long sigh of relief. She looked at Su Bai with a hint of admiration. There's even hope of winning this kind of lawsuit. So impressive, as expected of me. I have excellent taste in choosing a law firm. Meanwhile, at the legal department of Nandu Bank, Wang Wu's face was terrifyingly dark. He coldly stared at Su Jiqiang, the head of the legal department. Minister Su, didn't you guarantee me that we would win? But what's the meaning of this now? Not only did we fail to get a heavier sentence, but the other side even filed for acquittal. If they actually win the case, do you know what kind of consequences and losses this will bring to our bank? When that happens, your entire legal department will have to pack up and leave. Su Jiqiang quickly put on an apologetic smile. President Wang, please don't be anxious. This case isn't over yet. That opposing lawyer may be skilled, but our bank's legal department isn't just wasting the bank's money and being kept around for nothing. The lawyer on the other side brought up these 2 points without any issues at all. But the first instance verdict actually had several points. The remaining points are what really matter. Don't believe me? Su Jiqiang took out the first instance verdict. File. And after Wang Wu took a look, he snorted coldly. Better not cause any trouble. Yes, yes, what Director Wang says is right. Su Jiqiang quickly put on a placating smile. Wang Wu was so irritated that he stopped reading altogether. Keep a close eye on this live stream. Report to me right away if anything comes up. It's just too annoying to watch. Remember, we can't lose this case. Absolutely, absolutely, Director Wang, rest assured. After Wang Wu left the office, Su Jiqiang let out a long sigh and wiped the sweat off his forehead. Wang Wu's presence had put quite a lot of pressure on him. As for this case, he, as the head of the legal department, knew it all too well. He was certain to win, but when he saw the opposing counsel, Su Jiqiang didn't know why in his mind. Suddenly a thought popped into his head. What if the other side wins? Reacting, Su Jiqiang immediately slapped himself. Impossible. The other party is an unknown, a small law firm, a small lawyer. How could they possibly win? In the courtroom, Su Bai looked at Yu Caixia. Your Honor, our side has finished the statement. Yu Caixia nodded slightly and looked at Li Mo's side. Does Nandu Bank and the prosecutor have anything else to add? Li Mo glared at Su Bai through gritted teeth. This Su Bai really knows how to talk nonsense. He only mentioned the first 2 points and the later judgments. He didn't mention it all, did he? Li Mo raised his hand. Your Honor, I have a question. Li Mo raised his hand to request permission from the presiding judge. Yu Caixia looked toward the defendant's side, which was Li Mo's direction. Defense counsel may raise any questions in court. Li Mo took a deep breath, pulled out the first instance judgment. Your Honor, I move to strike. The plaintiff's attorney's statement. Grounds for the motion, Li Mo handed the first instance judgment to the clerk beside him. After seeing Yu Caixia take it, he said sternly, just now, the plaintiff's attorney, namely Su Bai of Baijun Law Firm, did not accept the first instance judgment of Nandu Primary Court and stated corresponding reasons. However, attorney Su Bai dwelled on minor points while glossing over major ones, only mentioning the first 2 points of the judgment and deliberately omitting the subsequent points. The third point of the judgment is that Nandu Primary Court found Wang Li, knowing full well that it was bank property, still chose to use this property to pay hospital fees. In his statement just now, the party Wang Li clearly described that after leaving the bank was already out of danger. still chose to take the money to pay the hospital. Based on this, it can be determined that Wang Li made his own subjective judgment, and not, as the plaintiff's lawyer Su Bai described Wang Li as being under emergency necessity. I asked the plaintiff's lawyer, when your client clearly knew that that was bank property, why did he choose to go to the hospital instead of calling the police to turn in the bank's money, or wait until he had reached a safe location before returning the money? But Wang Li specifically performed the act of using the money to pay the hospital fees. This shows that, first, he knew this was money taken from the bank. Secondly, even if the kidnappers threatened him, then at the moment he left the bank, Wang Li was already out of danger, and it does not constitute the conditions for emergency necessity. Combined, does this not show subjective? It's essentially like robbing a bank to save his own father. Of course, I understand this is human nature. I don't deny that Wang Li emotionally cares for and loves his father. But from a factual and legal perspective, the verdict against Wang Li is completely justified. Your Honor, I rest my case. After finishing, Li Mo glanced in Su Bai's direction. The last part was something he added on the spot. He also knew that this case had major public opinion repercussions, so he had to win the case while also managing the impact on public opinion. Otherwise, if the case ended in a victory, the reputation of Nandu Bank would also suffer enormous damage. Yu Tsaishan nodded slightly. Regarding the plaintiff's counterclaim against the defendant, do you have any objections or differing views? Liemo provocatili glinsta Su Bai. A slight smile curled at the corners of Su Bai's mouth. This was exactly the moment he had been waiting for. The time to bring down Nandu Bank has come. Your Honor, regarding the defendant's claim, I have no objections. The defense attorney's point is valid in itself. But there's one thing the defense attorney overlooked. I'd like to ask the defense attorney, how do you determine that the money in Wang Li's hands belongs to the bank? Is there any evidence to show that the money is the bank's? The defense attorney also stated that my client Wang Li used the bank's money to pay the relevant fees at the hospital. From this, you conclude my client Wang Li's subjective intent. But how do you prove that the money is the bank's? Su Bai's cross-examination question caught Li Mo completely off guard. What does that mean? What do you mean? What do you prove the bank's money is the bank's? What the hell? This question is outrageous. Li Mo wasn't the only one stunned. Many members of the audience in the courtroom were also confused. Was that even allowed? That's insane. Asking such a tricky question. The audience watching the live trial were all stunned for a few seconds. What does that even mean? Making the bank prove the bank's money is the bank's? WTF. This lawyer is on some next level, bro. This lawsuit has already taken a turn I can't even follow anymore. I feel like my brain is fried. Isn't this lawsuit about Wang Li? Shouldn't it focus on reducing Wang Li's sentence? The bank is the attacking side. So why is Wang Li's lawyer so aggressive? Not sure, but this trial is way too interesting. This is way more lit than Boruto. Feels kind of satisfying, though I don't fully get it. Wait till teacher Luo breaks it down later. In court, Su Bai's sharp questioning left Li Mo speechless. For a moment, he couldn't figure out what Su Bai was thinking. From a questioning standpoint, Su Bai's question was indeed without any issues. But from a factual perspective, the money the robbers took from the bank, if it wasn't the bank's, did it fall from the sky? Li Shuezhen looked at Su Bai thoughtfully, as if she understood something. Yu Tsaishan knocked the gavel and calmly looked at Su Bai. The plaintiff's attorney's statement. Is there any evidence or legal basis to support it? Yes, Your Honor. Su Bai pulled out a case file from the first instance. Your Honor, this is the evidence material provided by the prosecution during the first trial. According to the evidence submitted by the public prosecution, the bank was in chaos at the time. The robbers not only stole money from inside the bank, but also robbed customers who were conducting withdrawal transactions at the bank, mixing it all together in burlap bags. According to surveillance footage, the robber who gave money to Wang Li took it from the burlap. He casually grabbed 2 bundles of cash from the bag. It was impossible to tell whether these 2 bundles of cash came from a bank robbery or were snatched from a customer who had already withdrawn money and was about to leave. Snatched from the client's hands. How could the bank prove that this money belonged to them? If they couldn't authenticate it, then the bank couldn't claim that our client was involved in the bank robbery. The money was indeed stolen, but it wasn't stolen by our client. The robber handed the money to our client. So at most, our client can be charged with unjust enrichment. Therefore, we request Nandu Bank to prove that this money belongs to the bank. Everyone in the courtroom was stunned. Can they really do that? Yu Saixia frowned slightly. As the presiding judge for so many years, she had presided over hundreds of cases. This Wang Li robbery case had huge social impact, and the court president had assigned her as the presiding judge. But this particular case, she had never encountered such a twisted process before. The questions asked are so outrageous, but everything is within the court's procedural scope. Yu Saixia does not show much emotional bias. She looks toward the bank's side. Regarding the questions raised by the plaintiff's lawyer, does the bank have any evidence to refute or object based on legal provisions? Li Mo is absolutely furious at this moment. Since when does a bank need to prove that the bank money belongs to the bank? Li Mo really wants to curse out loud, but he has already been warned once. Another warning and he'll be fined 50. In serious cases, directly expelled from the trial. There is no way around it. He can only force himself to calm down. He raises his hand and says, "Your Honor, I object to the opposing counsel's statement. The customer is inside the bank. The bank has the right to protect the customer's safety and privacy. The bank customer has not yet left the bank. So, of course, the money should be attributed to the bank. Because of the loss of money robbed from the customer, the bank must bear primary or full responsibility. According to the division of responsibility, if the customer did not leave the bank lobby area, then the money naturally belongs to the bank, and there is no need to distinguish whether the robbery was against the bank or the customer, whether the robber robs the bank or the customer. Within the bank lobby, it all belongs to the bank's property." Li Mo stared intently at the plaintiff's lawyer's seat, filled with resentment towards Su Bai. Su Bai smiled indifferently, raised his hand to apply. "Your Honor, regarding Nandu Bank's claim about being robbed in the bank lobby, if the customer did not leave the bank lobby area, property loss being the bank's responsibility, and thus the issue that the customer's money also belongs to bank property. I object. Your Honor, this is a lawsuit from 6 months ago. The lawsuit involved a bank customer who was withdrawing money and had just received the cash when they were targeted by a robber who had been lying in wait, stole 150,000 yuan from the bank customer at the time. Later, the robber was caught. But since the money had been spent and the person couldn't produce the funds, the customer who had withdrawn the money then sought compensation from the bank, filing a lawsuit against Nandu Bank in court. However, the bank cited the policy of not responsible once money leaves the counter, and that the party did not protect their own property, and submitted that as their argument. Ultimately, the customer who withdrew the money lost the case. Is this what Nandu Bank means by protecting the property safety of customers in the bank lobby? Is this the same as Nandu Bank's claim that as long as you haven't left the bank, the customer's money is under the bank's protection, and losses will be covered by the bank? Our side maintains a denial of this. Your Honor, we request the appearance of that customer who withdrew money as a witness." Yu Saixia nodded slightly. Bang! The gavel fell. The plaintiff's attorney's request for the witness to enter is granted. After the words fell, a bailiff led in a middle-aged woman, around 40 or 50 years old, walked into the courtroom. As soon as the woman entered the courtroom, she stared straight at Li Mo. Li Mo didn't know why, but suddenly had a bad feeling. On the bench, Yu Saixia read out the witness's relevant information. Witness name, Wang Min, age, 46. Is this identity true? Wang Min nodded firmly. Your Honor, I am Wang Min, and my identity is true. After confirming the identity, Yu Saixia continued. The witness's identity is confirmed. Please describe the relevant situation. Upon hearing this, Wang Min seemed to find an outlet, her voice thunderous. Half a year ago, I deposited a sum of money in Nandu Bank. The money might not seem much to Nandu Bank, 15,000, but it was the betrothal gift money. My husband and I had saved over several hard years for our son. At that time, I had just taken the money out when some damn. Oh, sorry, Your Honor. I shouldn't have said that the robber was the one who did it. There was a robber who took the money. Then my family and I had worked hard for years to save. When we found him later, the money was already gone. Following the lawyer's advice, we sued the bank. But the bank refused, saying, once you leave the counter, we are not responsible, and that I failed to keep it safe. And I lost the lawsuit. Today, I just want to ask Nandu Bank, what do you mean by this? Isn't that double standards? When I sued you, you said, once you leave the counter, we are not responsible. Now that you've been sued, you say it was a robbery inside the bank hall and the loss of the customer's money. The bank must bear primary or full responsibility, according to the division of responsibility. If the customer did not leave the bank lobby area, then the money naturally belongs to the bank. So, shouldn't you return my hard-earned money? Tell me, is it true? C&M Nandu Bank, give back my money. Wang Min could still speak calmly at first, but as she spoke, she got more and more agitated. In the end, she directly started cursing loudly. Her words were extremely foul. The bailiff next to her tried to control her, but couldn't. Murmurs started in the courtroom and the live broadcast chat. Looks like Nandu Bank is indeed double standard. On one hand, they claim to be the victim, but on the other hand, they're the perpetrators. WTF. It's just bad luck to run into Nandu Bank. I don't recall other banks being this outrageous, do you? Not sure everyone can leave a comment here to share. Just list which banks to avoid and be done with it. In the courtroom's live stream and the rebroadcast feed, many people were venting their frustrations. In the courtroom, witness Yu Tsaixia was struggling to control her emotions. The judge banged the gavel. Plaintiff's witness, please control your emotions. Insulting the defendant is not permitted in court. This is a warning. Hearing the presiding judge's voice, Wang Min's emotions immediately calmed down. I'm sorry, Your Honor. I lost control of my emotions in court. I am Soda Kropka. Yu Tsaixia showed no expression at all. Plaintiff's witness, Wang Min, have you finished your testimony? Your Honor, I have finished my statement. Bailiff, escort the plaintiff's witness out. After Wang Min left the courtroom, Yu Tsaixia looked at Liu Mo. Regarding the plaintiff's witness's claim that Nandu Bank failed to fulfill its duty to protect the safety of clients' property in the lobby, should the defendant, Nandu Bank, provide additional clarification of the situation at that time? Liu Mo clenched his fists tightly, forcing himself to calm down. This lawsuit was truly excruciating for him. He even had a feeling that he might not win. After taking a deep breath, he calmed down. Your Honor, just now the plaintiff's witness insulted Nandu Bank in court. Therefore, I question the mental state of the plaintiff's witness. Thus, I believe that what the plaintiff's witness said in court should not be considered as admissible evidence. After finishing, Liu Mo noticed Su Bai across from him, the corners of his mouth slightly upturned. Suddenly, a feeling of dread arose in Yu Tsaixia's heart. Just as Yu Tsaixia was pondering whether to agree to Liu Mo's request, Su Bai raised his hand, and Yu Tsaixia noticed it. She asked, does the plaintiff's attorney have anything to say or anything to add? Su Bai smiled slightly and lifted the documents in his hand. Looking closely, there were about a dozen pages. Liu Mo looked at Su Bai with confusion. Su Bai smiled at Liu Mo and then spoke. Your Honor, we agree to the defense counsel's request. However, we still have several witnesses who can accuse Nandu Bank of failing to protect the safety of clients' property within the bank.